Well, Roland Martin is at it again. Now, first, the other day, he did a video on how the Democrats have failed to get the attention of black men. But then he turned around and said, "Black men, they need to effing organize." And he started creating content that's drawing black men further away from black women. And I told y'all, he even used words that I've been telling you. The Democratic strategy didn't work, right? So now he's talking about the Black Freedom Movement and trying to get these kids to get on board with the NAACP and their efforts to stop W supremacy in these states from redistricting, right? So he probably got the call, from the Democrats to say, "Yo, we need you to use your platform to try to get through to these kids," right? Now, this is the issue, right? Back in our grandparents' days, the children were involved and got on board because they can see directly what was happening to their parents and grandparents, right? And things at that time was affecting them directly, right? We have 60 years of integration, and you guys gotten fat. You guys gotten big. You guys gotten fat, and y'all have done a poor job in ingratiating yourself to the young black boys 18 to at least 30. Right? Most of them don't even know who you are. They feel like the Democratic Party doesn't give a damn about them. So now you're asking these black boys to fight on behalf of the black community that they feel like has totally abandoned everything. Right? Look around, y'all. You guys are so out of touch. It doesn't make any sense. Like it's sad how much the Democrats are out of touch. Now, this is the thing. I have to say this in every video. I'm not a Republican. I've never voted Republican. I don't give a damn about Republicans, right? I live in a Democratic city. My house was Democrat, everything. But the Democratic strategy failed. And for you guys to come out here and use this attempt when you haven't made any type of attempt to get through to the minds of young black boys and let them know we see you. We have programs for you. We have things set in place for you. And even if they're there, they don't know that they're there, right? So let's get off into roly-poly. And, he's doing the Democratic shuffle once again. But let's get off into this, man. This stuff, man, just ceased to amaze
me. Black athletes and others who go attend. It was quite interesting that a lot of attention has been focused in the last several days over the NAACP's call for Black athletes and others who go attend certain schools in certain states to not go to those schools and go to the others. There are a lot of people been commenting on social media saying, "Oh my God, this is not right. It's unfair to those young men. We should not be asking young people to do these things." And I don't really understand the argument. I've heard some people talk about, we need to allow them to secure the bag. And I get it. I get it. When we're talking about millions of dollars. But one of my
he's being disingenuous. He understands the argument because yesterday he just made a video talking about how the Democratic Party has alienated black men. He understands the argument, right? He understands, and you know why the people saying it's unfair. The spirit behind it is dead. There's no spirit behind it because the Democrats have failed the black communities. They failed black communities. Somebody has to tell this truth, but let's listen to somebody. I don't want to talk too much just yet.
Problems with this secure the bag generation is that, what do you stand for? If it's time to fight for something, what do you fight for? So let me think about the Black Freedom Movement for a second. When I think about the Black Freedom Movement, we got to remind people, it was a lot of 18, 19-year-old people. Many of them who were expelled from colleges, including HBCUs, for joining the Black Freedom Movement. What would the Black Freedom Movement have looked like if folks said to young people, "Hey, no. Y'all need to stay in college. You need to get your education. Don't want to mess up your future. No, don't do that." Do I need to remind people in Birmingham that all of Dr. King's advisors were dead set against James Bevel, who was organizing the children from being involved in the movement? Well, what happened? The adults kept getting arrested.
So well, let's do this. Let's do this first. Let's do this. So when we go here, right? When we go here, we go, okay, so the Black Freedom Movement is a centuries-long continuum of struggles against systematic racism, enslavement, and white supremacy. While its roots lie in resistance against the transatlantic slave trade, it is mostly famously defined by the mid-20th century rights and Black Power movements of the 1940s and 1970s. The long civil rights movement, 1950 to the 60s, centered primarily in the American South. This era dismantled state-sponsored Jim Crow segregation. Activists used nonviolent direct actions, including boycotts, sit-ins, and protest marches to demand equal access to public facilities and voting rights. Key milestones: the Montgomery bus boycott, the March on Washington, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Notable leaders: Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, John Lewis. The Black Power movement of the late 60s and 70s. As the movement progressed, a shift occurred towards radical pride, self-determination, and economic empowerment rather than focusing solely on integration. Right? Activists highlighted the need for Black communities to control their own schools, businesses, and local governance. Right? Key organizations: Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, the Black Panther Party, and Nation of Islam. Notable figures: Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, and Huey P. Newton. Right? Beyond the Southern, scholars emphasized that the movement was not localized only to Southern states. Extensive organizing and anti-redlining battles took place in urban North and West. Today, the ongoing struggle for Black equality and justice and human rights persists, right? So let's go back for a minute. Let's listen to what we said, and then we'll break down James Bevel, right? We'll break down James Bevel in a second.
And then kept getting arrested. And he was training the young folks. The young folks were clamoring to be involved in the movement.
Why?
They were at one point climbing out of the windows and trying to escape the doors out of the schools to go get trained. Then finally, Dr. King gave Bevel the nod, and
the young people were adamant about being a part of the movement and climbing out the windows because they were living day by day and being affected by this. They was under overt racism. They was under Jim Crow. Right? We understand what was going on at that time, right? These young people not experiencing that. We have way more freedoms today than our grandparents and great-grandparents ever had. And in these communities today are things that we could take care of ourselves. It's been a colossal failure. You guys want these young Black boys to fight to keep your chairs and keep your seats for where you're sitting here fighting harder for immigrants and non-Black Americans. Right. So now you have a whole this the part that he does not want to address. Right. They keep talking about Black girls matter, Black girls rock, and all that kind of stuff. Yes, Black women organize, but y'all use that as a way for us to separate ourselves from each other. Right? If Black women are organizing, it's supposed to be for the community. The same way if Black men is organizing, it's supposed to be for the community. Togetherness, not organizing for one group over the other group. Well, let's proceed.
Said, release the children. And it was when the children began to march and protest, and they sicked dogs on them, and they sicked fire hoses on them, and the world saw that. That's when people said, we got to do something. And then what happened? Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act. Those things actually happened. I think about the brother a few years ago, Mississippi State, who said, I ain't playing under that flag. I ain't doing it in Mississippi. Y'all, 10 days after that brother made that statement, you know what happened? They changed that flag. When I think about,
this is the question that I have. Why didn't y'all take this stance after the Shelby case? Why didn't y'all take this stance 10 years ago, 5 years ago? to get the John Lewis bill passed? Why didn't you come out and tell when they wouldn't pass this bill, when they wouldn't pass the bill, right? Why didn't y'all take these stands when none of those Democratic presidents or Republican presidents were signing executive orders for reparations? Because what Donald Trump just did, right, with this bill that they just passed to give some form of reparations to his people, it shows you that they can actually do it. Why didn't y'all take this stance to tell these kids, hey, shut down the economic purse strings in these southern states in regards to sports? Shut it down so they can pass this bill that can protect voting rights. Why didn't y'all do it? Huh? See, they don't want to answer this question. Why are y'all asking these children to do it now? Huh? Oh, let's proceed.
The folk who talk about secure the bag, it reminds me of a story that a woman told me. Her name was Carolyn Hunter. So what happened was Carolyn Hunter, recent college graduate, she was a chemistry major, had gotten her a nice job at Polaroid.
He telling all
well, one day there was a brother named Ken Williams. And Ken Williams was walking through the lobby and he saw this photo book that Polaroid was selling. And it essentially was like a passport. But that passbook is what watching PBS.
Look, check this out, right? Let's go over to the Reverend James Bevel, right? Real fast, because I want y'all, some of y'all may not know who he is, and I want y'all to get this, right? Reverend James Bevel, he trained the black youth into joining the freedom movement. Instead, he was a primary architect who mobilized thousands of them in 1963 for the historic Children's Crusade in Birmingham, Alabama. Bevel viewed young people as an untapped, highly capable force for nonviolent direct action. He specifically recruited children and students for the following reasons: minimum economic risk. Bevel recognized that adult activists face severe retaliation, such as being fired from their jobs or evicted from their homes, which could jeopardize their family's livelihood. Children did not carry these financial burden. Having a high school student fill a jail cell applied the same political pressure on the city as adults without facing financial hardships on their families. Unwavering conviction. He believed adults had been conditioned by a long history of systemic abuse and fear. In contrast, youth possess the confidence and susceptibility to embrace the principles of nonviolence. While Martin Luther King Jr. initially hesitated to use minors in the protests, Bevel successfully convinced him that the youth were ready. When brutal police tactics were used against these young protesters, the resulting media images shocked the nation and accelerated the push for civil rights protections. Now, this is the thing, right? This is more of an indictment on the Democrats today. Because if you can actually articulate this and show all the things that our grandparents and great-grandparents had to go through, and y'all done got up here and shirked the responsibilities when you was having hardships within the House and within the Senate for getting things passed, that's when you were supposed to use these strategies. Not when Trump come in now and they start the redistricting and he done got federal judges there, all these in the Supreme Court, all these federal judges across the board. Y'all sat there and allowed all this stuff to happen. So the question is, who falls on the sword for this? Who gets the blame for this? Not the grassroots FBA. No, you guys dropped the ball because you could have did this 10, 15 years ago when you couldn't get certain bills passed. You was more concerned about immigrants, gay rights, and everything else over the rights of Black Americans within the Black community. But let's proceed. Man, this thing gets real goofy, man. Real goofy.
In this whole argument is that many of the players that NAACP is talking about are also being recruited by USC, UCLA, Big Ten schools, other schools across the country. So they're not saying don't play. They're saying don't play for these particular schools. And these are the schools. The NAACP in their out of bounds campaign, they are targeting public universities in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. That's the schools they're targeting, those state schools. So it's very interesting to me to see people who are so mad, so upset, so angry, calling the NAACP out. Y'all wrong for doing this. And those young people, look at all the money they can make. So is that what we've reduced this to? We've reduced the fight for civil rights and voting rights and equal protection.
Yes, because you turned everything into black girl magic. When Kamala was running for president, everything was about women. And you created a thought process that there was no hope basically for men under the Democratic Party. Y'all did this, right? Y'all did this. Y'all talk about black women was the most educated. They was opening up all these businesses and black men can't keep up. All this stuff was being pushed by Democrats, right? All of this stuff. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that, listen, I'm not against the evolution of black women, right? But when you're pushing it to the detriment of black men, or you're making black men to believe that they're being left behind, right? And you're elevating the woman over the man, that becomes a problem. So now you're paying for it, because a lot of black men saying, well, no, we ain't sending our sons. We don't want to be a part of this, right? So I'm telling the black community, this is why I always say I'm not pro-black man, pro-black woman, I'm pro-black people. Because I saw all this unfolding. We saw it happening. So now we sitting here, we got to deal with this foolishness.
To what a handful of black people can earn, that tells me all I need to know about where this generation stands when it comes to fighting on behalf of black people. Let my panel.
Now you see what he just did? He want to talk down on this generation because they failed to make themselves known and visible within the communities of Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, Cleveland, right? Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, Brooklyn, New York, Boston. These kids don't have, a lot of them don't have no hope. They don't see the Democrats creating things. We're being gentrified out of our communities. When you in these black East Coast cities, every corner store is a Dominican store, Asian store. There's nothing black owned. So they don't see black hope. They don't see black power. But then he come with that disrespect because you expected them to save your seats.
Get to weigh in. I'll start with you, Candace.
Yeah, being economically sound and secure in the bag really is just an illusion. I mean, you're still going to get stopped by the police. The Supreme Court is still going to gut the Voting Rights Act. It just means that when you're a plaintiff in your case to try to change the law, you're going to be able to wear a better suit. You will look better. When we think of Althea Gibson, Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, I mean, so many people, they made and stood their ground to make a difference that they knew would happen.
Althea Gibson and Bill Russell and all those were a different time and with a different spirit, a different type of people. You're asking young people that you guys have failed to introduce yourself to. Listen, who just think about this, family. Think about this. Whenever we talk about history of accomplishments, we start from the day whatever the day that is, and we go to Dr. King and Malcolm X time back. From the death of Dr. King to now, it's been a colossal failure. We don't even talk about those historic accomplishments because they're not there. They're not there. So you guys have failed to carry on the mantle or push the work of our grandparents and grandparents on a national level or a high level where it can permeate within Black communities. Y'all haven't done a great job. So now you want to mention the Bill Russells, you want to mention these out there, Gibson, and all these people of old. Mention some people in the 80s and in the 90s and in the 2000s. How about them? You can't. You can't, because all y'all cared about was getting the bag and getting the seat. Y'all wasn't talking about taking these drastic steps or measures because you couldn't get bills passed within the Senate. You wasn't threatening them then. Now you want to do it. Y'all was too busy giving money to Rachel Dolezal, letting her in, and man, play some more.
Because of those who came before them. It doesn't matter the age. And like you said,
most of these kids don't even know who these people are because of y'all. Y'all haven't taught it. When these racist curriculums was being put in our schools, y'all didn't say don't go to these colleges. Y'all didn't tell the NFL players to stand down. So most of these young people don't even know who these people are that fought on behalf of us 60 years ago. If we want to be honest,
we're not saying don't go to school, but choose wisely and know that you have the power in order to do what you can do, and know
what power?
That in that $20 billion industry, when you talk about, college sports, it goes a long way when you talk with your money. That's how people listen. That is the one of the great equalizers in terms of being recognized and how people see you in this world. And if they're going to secure the bag, secure it at the right school. That's all folks are saying. Just secure it at the right school. You have the right, you have your own power and volition to make a better decision than the one that you were going to make at the school that, doesn't support the cause. And people at that age also need to understand and recognize their power. I think that we treat young people like they're young, but like you said, the people that came before us, they were very young. This documentary, the mighty movement. Anyway, folks can Google it, but it talks about the Children's March. It talks about the children involved in the civil rights era. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Age is nothing but a number. And in terms of the numbers, in terms of securing those bags too, nothing but a number two. The Supreme Court's going to work the way that they want unless people stand up.
Michael?
Roland, I'm glad you brought this up because I did a video a couple of nights ago about this. And I think the same problem with this and people commenting on social media, making these insane comments, is the same problem that we had with the Target boycott. People don't read shit. I don't think people actually read the press release from the NAACP because when you read the press release, it actually encourages these athletes to consider going to HBCUs and playing for HBCUs. It doesn't tell them don't play at all, okay? And it also calls on fans, alumni, donors, consumers, etc., to redirect dollars to HBCUs, purchase tickets for HBCU games, support HBCUs, etc. So this is a form of economic withdrawal, okay? And too many of our people have gotten too comfortable. Let's just tell the truth. Too many of our people have gotten too comfortable, don't really understand sacrifice, haven't studied the civil rights movement, okay? Because when we look at economic boycotts, not just the Montgomery bus boycott, but we look at boycotts in Birmingham, Alabama, we look at Gomillion versus Lightfoot and the boycotts at Tuskegee, Alabama, we realized that we had to redirect our dollars.
Y'all notice whenever he do this, he has the same people on here. He never have anybody come on here that's going to disagree or have a different opinion. Never. He has the same people over and over and over again.
Somewhere else also. And there was some sacrifice involved. So if people actually read the entire NAACP press release, I think they'll get a totally different impression than what's circulating on social media. But once again, this is why you have to read, but this is something very powerful. This is something we should all participate in, and we should have done something like this to get behind Colin Kaepernick. We should have stopped watching NFL games, stop purchasing the jerseys, stop purchasing the tickets, okay?
You should have done something like this. What? Oh. Okay, Michael Imhotep.
leverage our economics to enforce our political agenda. This is exactly what the NAACP is talking about here. How you can have Negroes when we are being politically lynched. How you
see how disrespectful they are? So now it's the black people's fault that don't want to get on board because they felt alienated by y'all. This is the disrespect. This is where we need to punch back.
can have Negroes want to sacrifice short-term gain for long-term freedom. I don't understand something like that.
The thing for me, Matt, is this here. It would be great if, let's say, the ESPN top 300 said, yo, we out. But let's say 5 or 10 chose to do so. The whole point of this is to create a reaction among these lawmakers. I go back to Mississippi State. I go back to what happened when that brother said, you know what? I'm uncomfortable playing under this flag. And when he tweeted that, this was one brother. This was one black man. This was one football player. When that brother said, you know what? Yeah, I ain't comfortable doing this. You know what happened, Matt? Several other players say, you know what, bro? I'm uncomfortable too. And you know what then happened? Those white coaches.
He needs some water.
White coaches were like, I better get behind my player. Then the white coaches will.
You know what the sad part is? They sitting here and articulating this, right? How come they couldn't get that John Lewis bill passed? Why didn't they take this strategy? I'm asking for a friend. I'm asking for a friend.
To them white conservative lawmakers, and they said, say, man, I need y'all to know this gonna be a problem. Because the white coaches saw what was down the line. The white coaches saw that if one black ball player caused 5 or 6 others to say, no, we ain't playing underneath that flag, they were not gonna be able to recruit black ball players. Matt, in 10 days, I need people watching and listening to understand the NAACP for decades had been trying to get that Confederate emblem off of the Mississippi State flag. The NAACP launched boycotts in Mississippi and South Carolina, and they kept the NCAA from holding various championships in those states, meaning that if the South Carolina or the Mississippi State or the Ole Miss softball team.
Can I say something? Let me say this. Roland is full of shit. I got to say it just like that. A lot of these people are afraid to lose their funding and their jobs. They could have been did this a long time ago, right? But when I read y'all what James Bevel said about the adults and why they used the children, because they didn't want to lose their livelihoods. There are a lot of corporations that they don't give a damn about Republicans or Democrats. They fund things and they benefit regardless. So a lot of things that we screaming for to get done or they're not going to fully fight on behalf of that because they don't want to lose their position. They come out and go against these corporate structures and corporations, they going to get voted out, lose their seat. They'll pay somebody and fund another person to get you up out of there. That's what's really happening. Stop. These people are bona fide liars. They don't give a damn about the community. These corporations and CEOs and corporate structures make money regardless of who's in power, right? Right? You have lobbyists. Man, these people are liars, man, and it's sad. It's sad. And Roland know this. Roland know this. That's why they'll go, but only but so far. But now they're saying, well, let's just ask the kids the strategy, because if we ask the kids, we don't have to get out there in front, whereas though we mess up their pockets and they come get us 3 years from now or down the line, they get some payback later. So let's just put the kids out there in front. When y'all could have really stood on business and done this. You trying to shame these babies into going and doing this. You ain't fooling George. You can fool these other people. I know what you're doing. You don't want to lose your positions. But the thing is, you already losing them because God see you. And he's allowing this stuff to happen because of your disobedience and your betrayals to your own people. Let's listen to some more.
Volleyball team, swim team, golf team, or whatever. They were ineligible from hosting regional events because the NCAA said we're going to honor the NAACP boycott. Then white lawmakers are like, yeah, we don't give a damn. But when that black running back said, yeah, I ain't down with this, them white boys changed that flag in 10 days. Tate Reeves was talking trash. We ain't changing nothing. 10 days later, signing that law. So people need to understand that the actions of a few black ball players could actually lead to massive change. I don't understand why.
So then the question would be, why hasn't there been a 30-year campaign to keep black boys in HBCUs and bring all the billions of, how much money did the NFL get or these colleges get? University of Alabama, Florida, University of Florida, Penn State, right? Mississippi, Auburn, Clemson, South Carolina, Texas A&M. How much money do they, Michigan, Ohio, right? Oregon, UCLA, how much money in TV revenue and sponsorships, ads, and everything is coming to those universities every year? How come y'all didn't, there hasn't been an all-out campaign and threatening, right, to keep these black players at HBCUs to build those endowments up? How come y'all haven't been going this hard? Where was the NAACP on this? Where was the black clergy at on this? Where was Roland Martin at on this? To bring this money back, to build up those communities where these HBCUs reside. Why not? Huh? Are we talking about billions of dollars of funding? We're talking about being able to build the endowment up. Lord. Boy, we in serious trouble, y'all. We in serious trouble. I know some of y'all are not spiritual, or y'all might not believe in the Most High or something, but we in trouble. Dr. Claude Anderson warned us about this. And these are things that they could have done and fought for. Those black boys that come out of these black women's wombs and they're raised up to be blue chip players, basketball, football, baseball, all of them should have been at HBCUs. Every last one of them. They belong to us. That money should have been coming back to our communities, right? People graduating from those schools should have been graduating and been able to. Money should be matriculating back into Black Memphis, Black Baltimore, Black Philadelphia, because it would have built a form of Black pride. We don't have that form of Black pride because we think that going outside of ourselves is better. Y'all really make me cry. That's how something need to happen. Let me stop. Listen. at this point, our biggest enemy ain't even the W's, man. It's our own people. They are traitorous, and they're not telling you the truth. They do not want to lose their prominent positions going after W supremacy, so they rather put the black babies in front of there because they're not willing to sacrifice. They want you to sacrifice. They could have been doing these sacrifices. Michael Imhotep let the cat out the bag when he spoke on the Kaepernick thing. They could have been doing this. But ever since the 80s, we could have had campaigns to keep black boys in HBCUs and bring all that money. Do you understand what we could have done with those decades of billions of dollars and the national pride and the foundational Black American pride that would have brought? When we can see the fruits of our labor, we can see the things matriculating back into black communities. They didn't want to do it. They failed. I don't even want to listen to no more of this foolishness, man. I'm telling y'all, man. We've been gentrified out of our communities, right? They said we're losing black representation where we never really had it in the first place because you guys wasn't representing black anything. Because you the same way you understand our power now, you could have exercised those same abilities 30, 40 years ago and you didn't do it. So the question that I'm asking that nobody's going to ask, people that disagree with me, you're going to come in and say disparaging and say bad things about me, but you're not going to dispute. You can't dispute what I'm saying. Who falls on the sword for this? And by 2035 and 2040, what is Black Philadelphia going to look like? Black Chicago, Black Cleveland. What are these Black Atlanta? What are these cities going to look like? Who gets the blame for this? Who falls on the sword for these colossal failures? You can't keep blaming everything on the W. What about what we was responsible for? Where did we fail? Those are the real questions, right? Those are the real questions, right? Real quick, right? Real fast. Hold on, real fast. Right? Let's go here. Why did these movements work directly hitting the economic bottom line of segregationists, forcing federal intervention through national media attention and building essential self-reliance and political power within Black communities? The success of these distinct but overlapping eras of the struggle was driven by specific strategic pressure. Listen, y'all, the strategic protests like the Montgomery boycott targeted white-owned businesses and transit systems because Black Americans made up a massive portion of the consumer base, which withdrawing the purchasing power inflicted severe financial pain. Why it worked? It forced white business owners and local leaders to abandon discriminatory practice because maintaining segregation became too expensive. Media attention and federal pressure. The strategy, march, sit-ins, and freedom rides were intentionally designed to expose the brutal and violent reality of Jim Crow. Why it worked? As television networks broadcast images of police brutality and unjust arrests nationwide, public outrage peaked. This immense pressure forced the federal government to act, resulting in the landmark victories like the Civil Rights Act of '64 and the Voting Rights Act of '65, right? So, like, man, this whole thing gets crazy. So, emerging in the mid '60s, the movement shifted towards towards Black power, self-determination, man. Right? It dismantled psychological barriers and built independent political, cultural, and educational institutions. This allowed Black communities to flex localized political muscle, register voters in record numbers, and demand control over their own neighborhoods. I don't think that y'all understand if we did this in the 80s and had all that political power coming to these southern schools, these Black schools, what would have morphed out of that? But Black sellouts sold you out. They sold you out. They come before you and they lie. They do not want to lose their positions because these people lobby to these corporate structures that donate billions and millions of dollars to move the needle and things their way, right? They don't want to rock the boat, right, on the political money. So they're going to sell you out and then tell you you're wrong. They could have been did this. They could have been said, man, we're going against the corporate structure. We're going in our best interest. Some of us are going to fall on the sword, but when we come out on the other side, we're going to be good because we're going to force them to bring everything our way. The psychological effect that would have had on seeing actual Black power work. Because you are the power, but we've been relinquishing our power over to them. We've been giving it all away. That's what we've been doing. Now you asking these kids to save you from being redistricted when you could have did this already. You could have been got that bill, that John Lewis bill passed. Why didn't you do this a long time ago to set up a vision so it don't happen? But again, we're the foundational Black Americans, the young grassroots, we're the problem. Nobody else, we're the problem. Roland Martin had never talked like this on his show. He always blamed everybody else. And I'm not saying all this to say that there wasn't Black people on the front line fighting, but it wasn't enough of them. And it did not carry the spirits of our grandparents and great-grandparents. So if y'all made it this far in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Street Media TV, leave your comments in the comment section. And remember, I love y'all. Till next time. Peace.